joined actually tonight by the rest of our hall and those who are watching as a way of really being able to stay connected. Our hope is that throughout this period that we're away, especially because of the coronavirus, we might be able to provide some regular opportunities to gather, either by video or through emails, just to remind ourselves that even when we're far apart, we remain a community together. And so it's good to have those who will be joining us tonight, as well as those who are here with us in our chapel. Tonight, we hear the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. It's a powerful story, and I think there's a couple of parts of it that I'd like to focus on. The first is Jesus speaking to this woman. It would have been actually pretty scandalous at that time. Typically, an unmarried woman or a single woman who finds herself with a man who's not her husband would have never engaged in conversation. And additionally, Jesus is a Jew, and this woman is a Samaritan. There's a lot of animosity between these two groups. And so they would have been natural enemies, not people that we would normally see conversing. And yet it's interesting that Jesus engages her in conversation, actually asked her for a drink of water. And Jesus clearly knows this woman. As we hear, she's living not with one of her 5 previous husbands, but with a man she's not even married to. He knows the reality of her life. And he also knows the deepest longing of her life. And Jesus chooses to engage with this woman. And in a very beautiful way, in the midst of their conversation, as Jesus reveals who he is, the woman comes to believe in him. That very person that we probably think maybe least likely, right? This foreigner, this person from the outside, this person who is living in an irregular life. She comes to believe in who Jesus is. And she doesn't just believe in him. She becomes one of the first people who goes out and proclaims who he is. She returns to her town, to her people, and she talks about this person that she's engaged. And she brings them to Jesus. In a really beautiful way tonight, that person that perhaps we least expect becomes one of the first disciples and apostles of Jesus, proclaiming who he is and inviting others to him. I think it makes for an interesting question in our life. How often maybe do we overlook someone else? Do we underestimate them? Do we maybe pass over them because of who they are or how they're different from us? What are the opportunities that we have to engage on a deeper level with these people? To be able to actually create a true relationship with them, what Jesus gave us as an example. The other part of our gospel that I find so interesting is this dialogue about water. And John's gospel can get a little bit complicated, right? There's all of these kind of levels of dialogue and discourse that sometimes we get a little bit lost in. But what's clearly happening is initially this woman thinks that Jesus is talking about plain old water. And he's both requesting water, but also offering her water. And she's excited because he says, this is the water that you never have to replenish, that you will never be thirsty again. She thinks that she doesn't have to go and to retrieve water anymore from this well. But as they continue to engage, it's clear that there's something else that Jesus is offering tonight. Something deeper than just plain old water. He is offering her living water. He's offering her himself. My friends, there are material needs that we all have, right? Desires that we all know. Desires to eat and to drink, right? The desires to be with each other, to be in community. All of these are good desires. Obviously, desires given to us by God. But what I think our gospel is reminding us of is that that's not the only desires in our life. And in fact, there's a deeper desire that each of us has. A deeper desire for communion with God and ultimately with our brothers and our sisters. It's why I think moments like we're going through right now can be so difficult. Because at that very moment where we desire to be with each other, to be around other people, we're being told to actually stay apart, to social distance, my least favorite word now. But I wonder in this time if there might be an opportunity to enter into that deeper relationship with God. To be able to take maybe this time that we find ourselves with, to take whatever this period is ahead of us, where we'll be at our homes, or remain here, and be a bit in sort of space that we have, and unfortunately that distance that we are required to have. I wonder if there's an opportunity to be able to find that deeper living water, to be able to engage in our spiritual lives, to grow deeper in our relationship with God, and through that relationship, to keep each other in prayer, to be able to reach out to each other, to be able to pray for each other, to be able to maybe call each other on Facebook and in other ways, and FaceTime and all of those great plays, and to be able to just kind of say, hey, we're thinking about each other. We care about you. We're thinking about you. And I wonder too if it might be an opportunity for us to realize kind of the deepest desires in our life. I'm going to close tonight with a distinction I think that's kind of helpful and applicable to tonight's gospel. It's a distinction that the writer David Brooks, who's one of my favorite writers, makes between happiness and joy. And he talks about happiness as something that's sort of a surface level desire. And it's not a bad thing at all. It's actually quite a good thing. But at the end, there's something even deeper that each of us desires. He calls that deeper desire joy. He writes, happiness involves a victory for the self, an expansion of self. Happiness comes as we move towards our goal, when things go our way. You get a big promotion. You graduate from college. Your team wins the Super Bowl. You have a delicious meal. Happiness often has to do with some success, some new ability, or some heightened sensual pleasure. Joy, however, tends to involve some transcendence of self. It's when the skin between you and some other person or entity fades away, and you feel fused together. Joy is present when a mother and a baby are looking adoringly into each other's eyes, when a hiker is overwhelmed by the beauty in the woods and feels at one with nature, when a gaggle of friends are dancing deliriously in unison. Joy often involves self-forgetting. Ultimately, joy is a surrender to some summons, and then doing everything necessary to answer that call. My friends, I think our invitation tonight in our reading is to understand that deeper desire, right? That deeper longing in each of our lives, and to respond to it. May this time that we have been given be a time that perhaps we can explore that deeper desire in each of our lives and respond to that deeper call.